Okay, the March 5th, 2013 Board of Health meeting is now in session. First item on the agenda we have is discussing 84 Cleveland Street, the Bramley Farm odor complaint. Thank you. At our last meeting, we had asked our consultant to look into finding some type of regulations as far as how these farms go, to kind of give us some indication as how we should proceed. I think this is a little bit out of the unorthodox as far as we're concerned. I've never come across this, as you know, we've mentioned. I don't think anyone here is really that knowledgeable about it except for Tom. I think he was raised on a pig farm, is that correct?
Not as smelly as that one.
Okay. So anyway, I did talk with Tom Houston briefly today to see where we're at, but I'll let Tom, if you could, just maybe give us a synopsis to where we are right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did conduct, since the last meeting, a reconnaissance of the property, and I believe that the owner, Wade, and myself, the abutter, were all there, along with Mr. Hart and a representative of the Farm Bureau, and it was about it, I guess. So we have a memo that I can go over that sort of summarizes that site visit in detail. We had done some research, and I handed that out this evening in terms of what regulatory mechanisms are available to the board in terms of controlling any issues that arise on this property. The first handout is simply the Mass General Laws as they relate to Chapter 111, which is the regulation of public health. And under these general laws, clearly the board has the authority to control nuisances, to inspect the property, and, if appropriate, even levy penalties with respect to noncompliance. The Mass Board of Health does have model regulations for nuisances and noisome, I guess you pronounce it, trades, occupations, specifically including, by the way, pig farms that do have environmental manifestations. So I had taken their model bylaw and customized it for Norfolk by modifying the language appropriately. So this is what could be a set of draft regulations. I'd also done some research as to what other communities have done in terms of controlling nuisances. The city of Haverhill, I did hand this material out, actually has very detailed regulations under their Board of Health for farms with pigs and the keeping of pigs. And what's nice about this, it is in much greater detail than the Mass Board of Health standards, and it does give specific performance criteria. By way of example, there's sections on manure management, and a specific regulatory threshold is that any manure piles have to be 500 feet or more from any residential dwelling. The final thing that I handed out, and of course we can discuss each of these in detail, but the final thing that I handed out is simply an excerpt from the Norfolk zoning bylaw. These are performance standards, section F10 of the bylaw, and section F10C3 specifically deals with the issue of odors. So that's what we've looked into. We've prepared some potential draft regulations. We've identified City of Haverhill regulations as something which provide a quantitative basis for control of nuisances. So we can discuss those. Maybe the first logical thing is to kind of review our memorandum, which summarizes the results of our site reconnaissance, which was on December 17th of this year. Wade, do you want to kind of go over this memo?
Sure, certainly. Last December 17th, we actually went to the Framley Farms to inspect it because of the complaints that we had regarding the last 6 or 7 months. And throughout the inspection, we saw possibilities of correcting the farms, of lessening the odors, dealing mostly with the manure control and in the housing of the pigs. I'm not sure if you had time to read it, if you have any questions regarding the memorandum, but or if you're actually, there's also a map too that goes along with it, which is quite interesting. When this memorandum was written out, it's written out to look at it and basically walk your way through the farm itself, so you get some kind of an idea of what's going on there. At that day, we didn't really smell any odors. It was a cool day, and everybody agreed it wasn't a smell to it.
I think
Yeah, there wasn't. Let me see. I think I might have one. Here we go. There you go. See this, Jeff?
No, I haven't seen the map.
Oh.
Is that in that package?
I
Yeah.
don't think so.
that actually, it came as an email. It's I believe a copy of the
I have a,
map that Mr. O'Hart had made as a prerequisite to making filings under the Wetlands Protection Act. So it's a plan of the
Want to throw some
entirety of the
copies together,
property.
there's a little one? You wanna make some copies of this?
Because I think with the map itself, it's easy to follow.
Yeah, I wanna make a few copies.
Do you want me to make?
Can you make,
the
yeah,
11
make
by
those.
17
Yeah.
so easy to read?
Sorry, Betsy, about that, but I think the map
okay.
itself would really be self-explanatory, along with the memorandum.
Can I also borrow this? Make
Yes,
another
you can
copy?
borrow whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
I think the copies are a little out of order here somehow.
I have everything.
And as Betsy's doing that for the board, I'd like to continue on each of the, well, maybe it's easy if I wait for the map to come. But each of the sheds that the pigs actually were housed in, we found that the shed itself was built for a certain size and it needed a permit from the building department. So it's a small little structure, concrete flooring, concrete walls, wood roof. They had a door and an opening so the pigs can come and go, and outside of each of the sheds were a fenced-in area. We found each of the the fencing around each of the shelters were movable. You know, so actually some of the pigs went out to roam around into the soils. You know, they're defecating, and we found a lot of accumulation of defecation and urine there. But we found, looking at each of the shelter areas, if they actually would move the fencing back and forth, rotating the land, that'd be one way of controlling the accumulation of manure and urine.
One of the issues is by the physical anatomy of the animal. It has sort of sharp hoofs, and by just walking through, and they tend to dig, it does destroy any grass cover or whatever that would have been there. And because the ground becomes kind of irregular, rainfall accumulates there, so it gets muddy, and then when excrement is deposited there, it all kind of gets mixed together. So I think that's, one of the odor issues. As Wade said, it wasn't an issue on the day we were there, but again, it was December. So, you might expect that the odors would be relatively minimal then. But it does create an issue in terms of being able to collect the manure from that surface. It's not like picking an object up on a smooth and regular surface. It is an issue. One of the issues, and this kind of relates to I guess to all the buildings, but most germanely to those structures which house the sows and the piglets on the left side of the driveway there. Manure accumulates both inside the structure and in the earth area that's outside. It's difficult to pick up outside, but I think Mr. O'Hart indicated his present practice is just to remove the manure from the sheds and deposit it in that same area. So the entirety of the manure stays right in the vicinity of those sheds, which are on the left-hand side of the principal drive as you're going in. So that's one of the ideas that sort of gelled out in the field, and I think there was agreement, although I'll certainly let Mr. O'Hart address this later, but I think there was agreement that one thing that could be done is that the manure from inside the sheds could be relatively easily collected and could be taken to a central manure pile. And we had sort of identified that pile could occur. There's not too many physical features on here, but somewhere in here in the middle of sort of a large pasture area, it's sort of equidistant from all the boundaries of the property, and it's also a fair distance from the wetlands. So sort of right in the middle here, it's an open field, which would mean that in terms of deposition of the manure, you could have four-sided access to it at all seasons. So there's a small manure pile which was actually discussed at the meeting here. That's nearer to this sort of older barn structure, which is relatively near to the O'Hart's house. But that manure pile appears to be pretty well decomposed or composted at this point. So one of the suggestions that seem to be implementable and I think would help to address these problems is this common manure pile in the center of that pasture area, sort of equidistant from all emerging boundaries. So.
Now, there was a handful of items that we asked to have done, I think, when it was one of the last meetings we had. I think it was 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
You said, but most of these, or all of them, haven't been done yet. Is that right?
Well, I think what was there were 2 items which were discussed at the meeting, and you are correct, they were not completed. One of them was to move the older manure pile. I think it was described as a way. We didn't have this plan at the time, but that was not done, and I think, well, I'll let Mr. O'Hart explain the details. It wasn't done. I think, in retrospect, having actually seen it, it did not appear to be a source of odor. It was
right.
pretty well composted, broken down, so it was not done, but I'm not sure, having been there, that was as key an item as we had thought, not having seen it. The other issue was that the board had requested that the sows and piglets from the 4 sheds that are on the left side of the driveway as you're going in be moved out of there because it was perceived they're closest to the nearest abutting residential property. That also was not done, and I can again let Mr. Hart discuss that
I
in
thought there was an issue
detail.
initially with the piglets still nursing or something like that at the time.
Yeah.
So.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I moved the large ones. We'd moved one shed and it was empty, but we had moms with babies, and
Right.
I think the agreement was they understood that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Was that? And was there? I thought we were also going to implement trying to start that larger or manure pile away from the property line. Has that been
Yeah,
implemented?
I sent photographs to the fencing committee
When did you actually start doing that?
2 days later, 1 day later,
Okay.
in early December.
All right.
And actually, Janet DeLonga from the wetlands was
Mhm.
out of the property, I say, about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and she's seen it and
All
walked
right.
past it.
So when you guys were out there at the time, did you see evidence that have been implemented now, as far as a centralized or?
My recollection is that the location of that specific manure pile.
Not the
to bring-
smaller one. Not
No,
talking about.
the larger, the
Okay,
new
yeah,
one.
right.
I believe that idea was conceived in the field. I don't think
Yes.
it came from the meeting here.
Okay.
When we were out there, that seemed like a logical way.
Right.
When we understood the deposition of manure where the old pile, it
Mhm.
seemed that a new central pile was the answer. And I think there was a gentleman there from the Farm Bureau who may have actually come up with that idea, but it seemed to all present.
So
that
that's
seemed
been
to make
happening
sense.
then?
Yeah, exactly, and we had intended.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just for the record, just,
Yeah,
introduce
yes, that
yourself.
pile and the photographs were sent tonight. And
Just
Janet-
introduce your name, just name and address.
Ted O'Hart.
Thank you,
And the owner of the pig farm at Cleveland Street.
thank you.
So Janet DeLonga was out, I'm going to say about 10 days ago. She had to come out to see that we hadn't clear cut the whole property. And when she was there, she walked past the thing and then past the new manure pile. The reason we didn't move the old manure pile, as Tom had mentioned,
Yeah.
first of all, it was stable, but we also have an ongoing problem with the wetlands. And we had a wetlands consultant lady come out and she said, you can't put the manure into the wetlands.
Yeah, I think the old pile
It
at this
was-
point is a moot point. I think that
it's like black-
that's not going to be one that's causing issues, so.
Actually, the new manure pile, pretty much 2 hours after, there's no odour. Janet smelt nothing, standing a foot away from it last week, so it's,
All right, so we had, the issue as far we talked about was moving the old pile and was moving the pigs out of those structures. And was there anything else we had actually asked to be implemented as a stopgap measure?
No, I think the other purpose of the site visit was kind of fact-finding because I don't think at that point any of us had been on the property. So I think it was just taking a first-hand look and obviously finding out if there were particular odors on that day. I don't think there were odor problems then, but again, it was mid-December and cool to cold. So
Okay, and is it fair to say now that the pigs, are they old enough to move now from those pens?
yep.
Okay, has that been done yet?
I think the consensus was at the meeting, there's probably not any point because the sheds on the facing the house on the right-hand side of the driveway, shed number 3, 4 and 5 on the plot plan,
Mm-hmm.
they're really only 20 feet from sheds number 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no,
I don't remember that at the meeting. I just remember us talking about moving the pigs. You're saying is,
Yeah, I believe Chris Wider mentioned moving the pigs from the left-hand side to the right-hand side.
so that's, you would literally have to move them from
20
2, 3,
feet.
and 4 and just put them at 1 and 2?
But being there on site, it didn't really seem to make much sense. If you move the pigs from one side of,
Right,
from the
all
road
right. So
to
they're
the
not
other
moving
side,
from the pens, they're just moving for the across the
it was
street.
more of the manure they were
Yeah.
creating. It wasn't,
Right.
I mean, wasn't much of a
Okay,
difference.
and as far as the manure that's being generated in those sheds, are those now being put into that centralized
Yeah.
pile? Is
Yeah.
that problematic? Can you, Tom
it's
had
actually-
mentioned that the idea with the pigs digging it and rooting it in with the soil there, is that an issue, getting that out of there?
well, we have a young kid from high school here in
Mhm.
Norfolk. I have a letter from him. He's been working since basically the 4th of December. He's putting in 25 hours a week, and that's his only job.
Okay.
I have a letter here in my pocket.
No, that's right, but so it's not a problem as far as you see, as far as getting rid of
Nope.
that stuff that's in there. The majority of pig manure, is it in the sheds or is it out just in the field?
pigs are actually relatively clean. They tend to go in the bathroom outside. They tend not to defecate inside in the shed.
Okay, is he also trying to remove the outside stuff? Is that possible?
Yeah, that's
to
what
do?
he's
Okay, that's what
doing.
he's doing. He's
Yeah,
not doing, okay.
On each little shed has a concrete apron, probably
Mhm.
12 feet, where the pigs can stand. It doesn't get mucky. So
Okay, so you've been doing the stuff mentioned, but you're not seeing a difference,
I don't see the difference because it's snow covered right now.
right? But have,
But
so,
when we were there, I don't know how you can take the pig waste out of the mud. I mean, there may be a little shelf there, but primarily those fenced-in areas are mud.
yeah,
Well, as we were there, we were discussing that problem, and during the sheds from the 1 to, well, the 5 sheds as you walk up the road, the 6 sheds, the fences are movable, so you can actually move the fencing around. So you can move the fence to one area and clean up the area, you know, where the manure and defecation is, and load it on a skiff and bring it to the center of the farm. Mr. O'Hart has the equipment to do it. He's got an excavator, he's got with attachments to it, which he could use to remove the manure from each of the sheds. And also, we noticed that each of the sheds wasn't drained. The land around it wasn't drained, and when the pigs went out there, roamed around where the fencing was, there was a flat land, and the water would accumulate, the urine would accumulate, and so would the defecation, and nothing would dry out. So he could grade it for a negative grade, so the water would drain out and it would dry out a lot
Yeah,
quicker.
I think the issue would be that moving the fences, because outside of each shed, there's probably only room for 2 places. In other words, you could rotate it, but probably only in 2 places outside the shed. So not doing it now, what you're getting is that one area that's very muddy, and the manure and everything is mixed together with the soil, and because it's so irregular in the surface, it doesn't drain at all. If you rotated that and put the pigs on what's now grass and smoothed that area out and tried to reseed it, I don't know, if the grass would have time to grow and become stable before you had to shift out of the, I mean, that would be, I guess something that would have to be,
the issue of
tried.
grading, I know, has come up several times. And is that an issue for you to do, to grade an area off, so prevent the ponding?
until probably, I'm going to say September of last year, what we'd been doing is we were buying wood chips from Peterbrook Lumberyard in Bellingham. We were getting 2 loads a month. And we were putting in the wood chips, which was a bad idea. So in September we began putting in
I remember you
gravel.
had said that, you started bringing gravel in.
Yes, and the gravel now is rising up and it's already creating that natural pitch.
Okay.
So that's
So
only
this
since
is separate, this is different from what happened when you guys were out there supposedly. This
Well,
is-
no, I already had probably 60 ton of gravel placed, so it's already mounded up. So that at the minute it's frozen, but
Well, was this after, I know it was ongoing, but have you brought more in since they did the site walk?
no.
Okay, so you didn't see that out there then?
Well, they need to be
Yeah.
graded. They need to be graded. I
So
mean, we
that-
saw the asphalt.
there was gravel mixed in with what was there.
But it still wasn't
but-
graded high
no,
enough then?
It wasn't enough. You actually need to physically grade it.
Okay,
That's going to be our summer program, basically from another 2 or 3 weeks. As soon as the ground's not frozen, we'll start to mound that up and regrade it off.
So the point is that it's manageable.
Mhm.
I mean, we saw
we
some.
think.
We
Yeah,
saw some positive areas that it could be manageable, you
Mm-hmm.
know, with this type of farm. They're not saying it's be perfect, but it would be, and improve the situation that's there.
Mhm.
Rotating the fences and adding gravel and trying to reseed and stabilize and get it's,
I don't know if the
Something
reseeding is
which-
gonna make sense. I don't know if that's
either, but,
gonna,
It's not
you
gonna
know,
work.
but the grading part,
it could improve the situation
Mhm.
until it's actually done. I can't
well,
tell you it's going to.
we've got 2 things going on. I mean, obviously we have what we'd like to implement some type of long-term solution, be it with his regulations or something. And Tom and Wade are working on that, at least looking into ideas and get something that's happening. But we need something short-term that's gonna obviously address your concerns. And now that we're getting into the spring again, I'd like to see Wade make weekly visits out there and see if we can spot a time where there's going to be a problem. I'd also like to see these things happen that you're talking about, as far as if this centralized pile will work in reducing the odors, if the grading out there will work in reducing the odors. And that, in concert with what we're trying to do here with the long-term regulations, maybe somehow come to a conclusion of this that's going to make everyone happy. But I see you shaking your head. And before, just again for the record, if you
Bill
could.
Farrell from 88 Cleveland Street. As you know, we've seen it over and over, this has been going on for
Absolutely.
a substantial period of time. This week, I hired an attorney to work on it for me. The first thing she said is, why hasn't this been stopped? We've been listening to excuses for a year and a half. Last January, all the pigs were supposed to be off the property and moved out to some other place. That hasn't happened. From my visit, and I saw the same things you saw, it was mud and it was feces. That's really all that was back there. The grazing, the quote-unquote grazing area, small, you can't, those things will go through that grass in 20 minutes. How many pigs are allowed there? I mean, it's just, there's questions over questions.
And we have questions as
No, I
well,
understand.
right? See, the only concern I have is you know, and you mentioned it before, you'd love to see an enforcement order, us shut down, something like that. Right now, we don't have any concrete evidence. We've had people go out and do the odor walks and like that, and unfortunately, we have nothing that says, yes, this place is horrible, it's causing noxious fumes, it's causing health issues. We don't have any third party who can corroborate that
You
yet.
have Chris Wider, you have the town clerk, who lives down the street and runs past our house every day.
I've had no, I have no documentation that says, we've gone out, like, I think Bob Bullock, the building inspector, is supposed to go out there and do the noxious odors. We've had Wade go out. I know I've driven by. And that's one of the reasons I want to have Wade go out weekly. Or even, because you're in here.
Well, Chris Wider was with us that day also.
Right,
And
it was 30 degrees.
And when we walked
Right,
through there.
exactly. I know
we
that
were
you're
all
not going to
in
find
agreement.
that there, right.
Well, we knew it was a cool day. I mean,
You're not gonna get any smells on a day like that.
we didn't find any smells, but we were looking at other things, possibly, as I said earlier, grading. Because we did find, one thing we did find there was a pile of manure that did not smell, it was dried out.
Right.
And it didn't seem to be offensive at all.
Yeah.
And that right there was a real positive thing to observe, because it can be done, you know, in other words. And Mr. O'Hart was with us during the day, and he agreed about the grading. He thought the grading, and he said he could do the grading. He said he could move the fencing around to give part of the land rest so it could dry out, and he can also clean it out. We talked about a centralized manure pile, all of us together. It's also including his friend that he brought with him, Mr. Lawton, which also is a member of the Massachusetts Farmers Bureau, who's also a farmer. So it was a discussion that day. It wasn't just like a walk through. Everybody got together, we talked, and we spent many hours there to try to come up with some kind of reasonable way of managing that farm, just to give him some advice. And he agreed to everything we talked about, which we put into the memorandum here. And so that's what I was assuming that he'd go forth with, you know, and we can monitor it. And if he wanted to ignore, then there might be other options for the Board of Health to take.
I do think that, you know, if this problem cannot otherwise be solved, and if it becomes necessary for the town to issue an enforcement action, that's a very serious matter. So I think the town is on the most solid ground if it has one of its sworn agents actually observe the odor at the facility.
Agreed.
Right now, that hasn't happened. Our visit was in December, and you wouldn't expect it to
No,
happen.
we knew that wasn't going to happen then.
Bob Bullock, the building commissioner, who can enforce those sections of the zoning bylaw that we handed out, he did not come back and notice or note an extraordinary odor, again, just on the particular day that he happened to be
Right.
there. So I think that is a prerequisite to the board taking any sort of action like an enforcement order.
Well, I agree with
think
that. I think we need to have something that we can hang our hat on before we start doing this. Otherwise, we're going to put ourselves in a very difficult situation as
And
far
I think
it's-
you're.
I guess from what I'm hearing is we have to wait till it smells to do anything.
Well, hopefully the idea is that it won't smell.
But if it does smell, now we're,
That's
again,
that's
we're starting
correct,
from
because
scratch.
that is in a bit correct. We need to have someone who can say, yes, we've
What
beyond
about this
just the
conversation
abutters saying
What
that.
about the conversation over the past year and a half? how badly it smells, and everybody that's gone out there agrees that it stinks.
We just had people here saying that
But
unfortunately
it's
it
in the
wasn't
winter.
always the
I'm
case.
talking about in the summer.
What documentation do we have on this? Concrete
Didn't Chris
evidence?
write something?
Chris did not like definitely didn't like the conditions out there. I knew that.
I mean, I can remember people saying they stood in our driveway, or they ran past, and it just knocked
I
them off.
agree. I'm
No,
not
I
saying it.
understand.
Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm sure butters do. Like I said, we don't. It's that snapshot in time that we're not seeing yet. That's the only problem I'm having, and that's why I'm saying I want to work in concert with immediate, try to get something done in long term. But anyway,
You've got pigs on the property that was supposed to be gone January 1st. They're still there, and that's really what it boils down to.
but again, we can't tell him. He suggested doing that, but we really can't
He
say move all your
promised-
pigs
he
off.
promised it would
Right,
happen,
but we
just
can't
like he
say
promised a lot of
move
things.
all your pigs off right now.
Well, I guess this is past the board and myself. I'm gonna I'll let the attorney handle it from now on. This is
Tom, do
crazy.
you want to?
Yeah, I do. Your report from December, I thought, in my mind anyway, suggested what looks like a pretty clear possible solution. And it has to do with the notion that you need to have a fallow space and then an active space for the pigs to basically defecate in. And the idea of having enough material, porous material, not the stuff that's there now. And you're talking about bringing gravel in.
Yeah.
The idea of having enough material that you do not have waterlogged waste material just parked there for days and weeks at a time is perhaps the one clear thing that would do the most to reduce the odors that are out there right now. Because you can clean out the stalls, but as you say, they're pretty tidy animals when it comes to not pooping in their own beds. So the result is they're going outside. And it's difficult to basically shovel that up when it's being churned into the soils that are sitting there. So the best you can do, I believe, and this is going back to my boyhood, is simply to have enough material, porous material, that this stuff gets worked into, that it's not underwater or even puddling in water. If it's aerated, you're not going to get the same smell as if it's waterlogged. And so if you could somehow create spaces and have the grading and the material in place to essentially have an arable area for the pigs to roam in, and then another space right next door, which is then being prepared for them to go when that area basically is getting saturated. You have a management procedure almost in front of you, which may take care of a lot of this. And maybe what we need to do as a board is simply say, all right, this is a plan. We think this will work. Let's try this out and all agree that this is what we're going to do. If we're wrong, then you know what? Well, then there aren't too many good outcomes for you.
Yeah. No, once we had the farm meeting, we began the centralised manure pile immediately, and we've been working on it for 3 months. You know, there's a substantial amount of manure in the centre. There's no animals walking through it, so it's Janet DeLonga, a town employee, can say that last week or whenever she was on the farm, it was relatively odour-free 2 feet from the pile. So it's working, that approach. The other news from Mr. Fairley is that we have actually finally got chapter 61A in Douglas. So it begins on the 1st of July of this year, and we can move our animals on the 2nd of July. And our plan has always been to remove all the mature, the meat animals out to Douglas and just keep the mums and the babies, basically as a pregnancy unit in Norfolk. So we would go from having 80 to 100 pigs down to having 15 mums only on the property. And that can begin, it can't begin until the 2nd of July, but that is a definite. I showed Wade the actual plan permission, or not the plan permission, the letter from the town of Douglas, which came the day after, or the day before the site meeting. It came, but it was late. So we have that now, the 61 in for Douglas.
Well, that's good, and I think it gives rise to another question, because I think distance is a key to all this type of thing here. Right now, what Mr. O'Hart referred to as the meat animals are kept in these sheds here, the two parallel sheds that are sort of a little bit under the north arrow there. all of the smaller sheds where the sows and piglets are now, these sheds
3 through 7.
3
3 through 6.
through 6, could, though, once you move the other animals, could those pigs and piglets be moved to these buildings here and get them way away from the abutting property?
Well, what typically happens is during the summer, we don't have any of the mums giving birth in those sheds. They typically give birth down in the woods, which is what they prefer. They like being out in the woods. And so the sheds hopefully will be empty during the summer. And then in the colder months, the mums only go into sheds 3 through 6 for 6 weeks while they're very pregnant, through giving birth while they're nursing their babies. The other 3 to 4 months that they're pregnant or resting between giving birth, they can be in any shed housed together. They don't have to be individually housed. Sheds 3 through 6, there's little individual maternity. It's like a little maternity ward, each little shed. There's 2 to 3 units in each of those little buildings.
Well,
Separate female pig in each.
because they get very aggressive and protective. so-
why could the larger structures, if the other pigs are going to be vacated, why could they not be subdivided into individual spaces and this entire portion of the property not used for the raising of pigs? Can you get all that up here?
Yeah, we could absolutely do that. It's at the minute though the sheds are set up for it. We would have no more construction to do. There's like individual stalls, for want of a better word. They're like 10 foot by 6 foot. So there's 3 of these units in each little building.
Mm-hmm.
The other sheds, there's nothing inside, so it would be some extra construction.
Okay, is that something you're willing to do?
Yeah, absolutely. In the middle of start of July, we can start doing that.
So we can get a commitment from you to do that.
Yeah, and by the 2nd of July, either we're going to stop pigs or we're going to have the fat pigs gone from the farm. One or the other.
Mr. Hart, I get the impression when we walked that day, that up on the hill, which is sheds, 8 to 12 and 13 to 18,
Yep.
were going to be your birthing areas. You wanted to put all your mothers up there, and you're actually creating little tiny rooms inside the big room so the babies could hide from the moms. They don't want to be crushed.
We can, but there's no stalls inside. Sheds 3 through 6 or 3 through 5, whatever it is, they are already kitted out. That's the little maternity ward where the babies are. We can convert the other ones or do additional construction inside. If you don't have the mums, basically the idea, there's a lot of controversy with these farrowing crates where the mums are crated up because they tend to flop down and crush the babies. So we have them in long units where they can turn around, but they have to slow down before they're 6 foot wide, so they have to. So you can't give them a big shed that's 12 by 12 because they crush the babies.
Okay. Now I'm getting confused now. Are you abandoning the early sheds, or are you still going to keep the sheds on the gravel drive?
I'm suggesting that a mitigation measure would be to not use those sheds for the raising of pigs because they're in reasonable proximity to the adjacent.
Yeah, what we'd like to
residents.
get is
On the
saying,
2nd of July, we could absolutely begin.
we'd like
that
to get those
process
abandoned.
by the 2nd of July. we
So-
can start.
so
it
in
might
the
take 1 month. So if you give me to the 2nd of August, we could do it.
So the interim is now going back to the grading on the sheds. Will the sheds be graded and sand brought in there so the defecation and urine will soak into the ground, or it just won't puddle there? It'll be able to dry out. I mean, starting like next week or so, because that's
Yeah,
what
we are-
I
we
think
are.
that's what the board's
Yeah.
aiming for me to do, to
Every
go there
shed's
and
been-
monitor your farm.
The manure's been gathered, and basically as soon as the ground starts to thaw out, we will be trucking in gravel to keep the grading. That's an ongoing, current plan. So
Okay.
there's no postponing or anything like that. That is happening.
Because you're able to scrape the manure around these sheds with your equipment.
Yep.
I mean, you don't have to have a boy with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. I mean, you actually have machinery there that can do the work.
Well, we can
very
stockpile
quickly.
it with the machinery, but you can't, you'd have to take down the fences, you'd have to move the animals.
No, well, the fences are movable, I know that, and you could put a fence over where the door is so the pigs will stay in, and you can clean it. It's not an all-day process. You scrape it out, then move the fence back in, and then you can work your manure outside of it and get it out. I mean, maintenance.
Yeah.
We're looking for manure maintenance.
For 3 mums, you're talking probably maybe 4 pounds of manure per animal per day. They get 6 pounds of food a day. So say 4 pounds of manure. So it's easier to have a kid go in with a shovel rather than spending 2 hours locking the mums up and changing the fence.
Right.
He can do it. He can do each shed in about 10 minutes.
We'll let you determine how the manure is removed, but the issue is that as Mr. Gilbert said, to address the problem fundamentally, these areas have to be graded, so that the gravel has to be added, the area has to be graded off, and that the accumulation of manure and urine there has to can't continue to have this muddy continuum there. So that's something I think that you're going to have to address, because July 1st is an awful long way away. So I think that needs to happen now. So, it's the 5th of March. In another 2 weeks, the ground should be workable. So I'm expecting that when Wade goes out there in 2 weeks, that there'll be gravel placed and those areas will begin to be graded off.
All right, so we can get a commitment from you that you're going to
No,
start.
yeah,
I know
that's-
you've done work over the winter,
Yeah.
but now you can start this again. The idea of being manure maintenance. Can we get your permission to have Wade visit the site once a week?
Perfectly. As long as you know the night before, not a problem.
Sure, we can make it like a standard day if you like, if that's good for you.
One other thing, I looking
Absolutely.
at the Haverhill issue, we've had some pig farms up there that have popped up in residential areas and had the same type of concerns with the smells. One of the pig farms up there mentioned a simple thing as feeding the pigs dry protein. He said completely eliminated the odor. He said it was a wet protein that caused the smell from the pig droppings, and that a dry protein made the problem go away.
I'm not really sure the science of that. Maybe somebody more scientific, because they drink water straight away. So
Well, not drink water. I'm talking about the feed that he gives them. Instead of a wet type of feed, he gives them what's called dry protein.
yeah, we don't feed any waste products. We use brewer's grain, which
But is it wet or dry?
it's wet, but then they also drink 3-4 gallons of water as well. So
That's fine. But it was a type of.
yeah, I'm not
This
sure.
is what they have, this is what he feeds the pigs.
Brewer's grain,
Cornmeal.
and then we feed no waste products or what's most Massachusetts farmers.
Well,
feed
this
just
was an
rubbish.
established pig farm that's been there for 30 years up in Haverhill.
Yeah.
And he swore by this. He said he's never had any odor concerns, and it was because of this dry protein that he fed them.
Well, in fairness, I would be the first to admit as a pig farmer there is no such thing as a pig farm that doesn't smell. So I don't mean to be.
No, that's fine. But I guess I should say more clearly, he's never had issues with abutters or people visiting the farm saying there was anything as far as noxious or overwhelming or that type of smell that would be consistent with what you may imagine as a pig farm.
Again, I'm not sure.
Would you look
I'm-
into that if we gave you an
Yeah,
idea what
absolutely.
that was?
But I don't think the science would bear that out. They can't eat a lot of dry food, so if you don't give them access to water, it's standard good husbandry to actually food and water.
No, that makes sense. I'm not saying don't give them water and let them just eat food. I'm not saying that, but I think it's the type of food, and if it's a brewer's yeast or something like that that you're feeding them, or some type. I mean, I could see that just a fermentation of that causing issues by itself.
Well, it's just regular grain, like regular barley or oats.
Mhm.
That's taken. The sugars have come out of it for alcohol, and it's just pure grain. It's like a granola. It looks like a granola. It smells like beer.
Hmm.
I think you were saying, though, that was very acidic, that you had to mix it with.
The sugars are gone. There's no sugar
Yeah.
left in it. So
So-
then we mix the other.
It sounds intuitively that a diet that's very biased in terms of being, acidic and maybe something that the pigs don't even like that much, that might be contributing to the odor problem. That's a conjecture on my part, but
My understanding, your stomach's full of acidic juices anyways, so giving them an acidic diet shouldn't affect the odor of the meat.
How
I'm
long
open
have you
to-
been? How long have you been farming pigs?
We had 120 sows in Ireland. I grew up on a pig farm.
Okay.
So now,
Oh, see, you're lying because the lights
So-
go.
the
If you
thing-
could, I mean, I'd like to contact this guy just to get an idea of what that
Sure.
feed he's giving.
Yeah, or-
and just,
try the Department of Agriculture, probably better science.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I would think so too.
but at least I can get a brand name from the people in Haverhill.
Well, I mean, it's quite possible that he's fed this material and he's not had an odor problem. Is that a cause and effect relationship?
Everything else we're just throwing out there. See, we're throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall. See what sticks
Yeah,
right now.
well, yeah, that's.
There are some.
You do with this kind of stuff, I guess it's a
Yeah.
good test, yeah.
Yeah, we've actually gotten talking now to the Mass Department of Agriculture, and I sent Betsy on. We're getting a farm plan as well. That's a definite now. They've sent an email to confirm that.
When will the farm plan come in?
Mr. Reno is anticipating being out on the property in April. But the farm plan is a fairly quantitative effort, so I would anticipate it would take a couple months to prepare it.
Well, the important thing is you've had a long time now to deal with the problem, and we are expecting to see results starting this spring, which is less odors. And we do want Wade out there a minimum once a week. Wade's got 2 days a week he's in here. That could go up to 2 days a week. We'd like to get this problem fixed. Your pigs are going to leave in July. That's great. We've heard it before.
It's not the mums.
I know that, but the majority
That-
of pigs
Yep.
should leave. I mean, that's like they said. We've heard that before. I know this is not what you want to hear because this is all hearsay, and you've heard this before. But go ahead.
Can I just have the floor for one minute?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think you had mentioned it before, that part of the problem is we don't have any documentation about the smells. We weren't sure of the laws and how the board, interacts with the farm. But it's been over a year and a half.
Mhm.
And to me, there's no excuse why this hasn't been taken care of. I mean, I've written numerous letters, I've been before this board a number of times. You'd think we would know the laws by now, a year and a half later. And that's part of my frustration, that this keeps going on. We're talking about grading the property now. He's got 2 weeks to do that, or whatever he's gonna be doing. And then the pigs will be gone by July 1st, but the odors won't be gone until August sometime. So I think we need some specific dates and times that this stuff's gonna happen. And I'm not talking about in the middle of the summer. I'm not talking about the end of the summer. August, the summer's done. I haven't had a cookout, I haven't had a barbecue, I can't do anything.
Well, that's what I was saying. Going
It's
forward,
gotta happen today.
going forward. I mean, this is the time we can start grading. There's been some work done over the winter, correct? All right. So potentially there could bear some fruit from that work. But that said, according to the site visit, there's still some issues that need to be addressed, and you're going to address those now. Correct? I mean, once you can work
Oh, no,
this
no,
ground, which
it's-
should be very soon.
I'm in-
Wade's going to go out there right now. So, like I said, if we have to do it twice a week just to make sure things are going forward and the owners don't start, I mean, this should be something that's not just going to slam you one day. It should be start.
You'd be surprised.
Well, maybe. Again, I don't have an experience with this, so I'm trying to work through it. So hopefully, by doing that, we can get this done. We can get it to the point where, come July, the pigs go away and things get better. I mean, we can't sit there right now and say, okay, cease and desist.
I understand that, but I guess I'm disappointed that it's taken a year and a half to get to the point where we're at today.
I don't disagree with you. We tried to bring a lot of different people in. We don't meet twice a month like other boards. I mean, a
No, I
year and a
understand-
half,
I
so you could do the
understand- I
numbers.
understand all that.
There's not a lot of meetings. There's been a lot in ongoing learning process even for us. And I apologize for that. I'm taken off guard by this. And I never thought it would get to this point that we would be here a year and a half later. All I can say is I hope what we're doing now gets you to the point where this isn't an issue. And maybe some of the things that will be done or being proposed to be done will have a beneficial effect.
I guess I
I
listen
think
and- sorry.
that concern is kind of central to this process here. I think it is important that the board be able to rely on the agreements that we reached tonight.
Mhm.
Because if it comes to July 1st and the pigs aren't capable of being moved, if 3 weeks from now there's no additional gravel there, if the manure is not being put in the pile, you're forcing the board into taking corrective action. I mean, we're on the edge now of what we can do sort of in a cooperative effort of trying to work through the problems. If the representations that are made tonight don't come to pass, that's going to have consequences. The board's going to have to take action here because you leave us no choice.
And what we're really trying to do is beyond getting rid of the owners too, we're now trying to get into the process that we have witnesses out there, we can see what's going on. So if it comes to the point of issuing an enforcement order, we now have something to hang our hat on, that we have documentation, that we've tried, that we've done this, and that we have our agent out there who can represent us correctly if need be in issuing enforcement. So it is beyond the point now of let's just try to get done. Do we need to come up with solid dates now?
Yeah, I think we do, and I think we need to actually come up with a list of
Yeah,
what
I agree with
we're asking you to do, what the time period is, when Wade's going out to see it, and have very specific guidelines, and then that way they can be reported back. Because otherwise, we keep, every single meeting, we say, do X, Y, and Z, yeah, and it doesn't get done. So I think having really specific timelines for this whole thing. So I was looking at some of the stuff. I mean, we have the manure now as an essential area. That's one of the things that we've said that has to be done, and that would be something that gets checked on all the time. Now that sand or gravel's being brought in and the areas will all be graded, do we have a time
That's
period
the
for
time.
that?
That's the most important one. We need a time frame
So-
for it.
Yeah, there's already been 60 ton of gravel placed last fall, so we have
But we
been
need
putting
to
in the
make sure that it's graded, and I think we can look at
Yeah.
what the time period is.
Now, that's a good point. Could you do one shelter a week?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that means in 6 weeks before May, when it really gets hot, we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 6 sheds when you first walk up,
Complete.
first completed, and then if it's graded down and it's working and draining well, having someone come to your property and observe it could also be your benefit too. It's not all negative. It could also show that yes, I am managing this farm. Yes, I am successful, and yes, I'm keeping the odors down. I mean,
I
lime would.
think we said 2 weeks. The ground
Yeah.
is definitely
Yeah.
going to be working.
Right. So
Right.
second week
So-
in May.
No, that would be, today is,
Middle of March.
yeah,
At least
March 5th. So okay, so by the 20th of March, we'll have the first shed done.
That sounds more than reasonable.
Okay. Now, in terms of, being an engineer, I like to have something you're building to. I would think that we could agree upon a 2-inch thick layer of gravel.
Yeah, on the ones that are in, it's probably, I'm going to say it's closer to about 18 inches.
Well, so
If it-
they're just so we're not fuzzy about the performance criteria here. I don't know what's in there.
2
But-
inches won't work.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that'd be enough.
Because the pigs are like mini bulldozers. If you don't put in 18 inches, they're going to dig right
Okay.
through it.
Well,
So-
what I'm saying is, if you go out there now, the appearance of the area is mud.
Yep.
So I'm looking for a smooth, regular, dry surface. So I don't know how you do that.
A question for you, just so we're on the same understanding. We have the sheds, we have the concrete apron, and then we have, that's for better word, a corral.
Correct. Yeah.
My plan is to do half the corral, because they still have to wallow and dig on the far corner. Is that, or do you want the entire, because if we do the entire, and this is just the mechanics of it, if we do the entire area, then there'll never be any reseeding, and you couldn't move the fence. So,
I'm not sure I followed that. If you do the entire
inside the little corral, you know where the electric
in
fence.
its present location, yeah.
What we were doing was half, so the pigs have a completely dry area, and then they'll go off. If they want to go down to get a drink or whatever, we can do the entire area if you want, but then we'd be covering the entire property with gravel, and you wouldn't be able to move the fences. It has to be 18 inches of the dig it up.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about when you bring in the gravel in to pour the gravel in the
Yes.
corral area. They're doing it two different times, 2 different sections.
Yeah. Or will we do how much gravel do you want placed inside that corral, the pig enclosure?
Okay, I'm looking at it, I'm seeing it as you're grading first. You're going in there and you're making a negative grade.
Yep.
So the fluids will flow down and your ground will dry out.
Yep.
That's number one. You need to grade it first, and then before you bring the sand in, the gravel in.
Okay, so do the entire inside of the enclosure.
Well, it's hard for me to know what you're saying inside your
We-
head,
I
but
think
you,
need to
with your
meet
first
on site
meeting-
and decide exactly.
Yeah,
what it
At
maybe-
the first meeting you're there, we can,
yeah, we can
That's-
discuss it, you know. That might be a
and
good
we're
thing.
fine as long as we're on the same, I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
mind.
yeah.
But if you,
Regardless of how we stage the construction, which I think is what we're talking about, the final outcome should be that the entire area within the corral should be a level graded surface, not muddy. Are you saying there's something about the pigs requiring a certain area of mud? Am I misunderstanding that? Or?
well, one other little dilemma is a pig has no sweat glands. It's the only mammal that doesn't have a sweat gland. They die if they're not able to go into a mud wallow. So in the summertime, they have to have one little dipping pool or they die. So it's the only mammal with no sweat gland.
Mhm.
So, but that area could be at the very bottom where the waters are now, 10 feet, but it has to be muck. It can't be.
But at least the top part of it can be dry out, and that's where you can start cleaning the manure out. There's some kind of
Yes.
control going on,
And
other than
that's-
leaving it there for,
But rather than the whole pen, it could be one little area that needs to be.
very similar to what you have up on top of the hill. Well, those pens up there, they're actually on a grade. You walk out and the corral is actually on a natural grade coming down, and the odor was less.
All right, well, like Tom had mentioned, why don't you two figure this out on site?
Segment, yeah.
Well, I still, before you walk away, we still need more details.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, as I said, we're not, if you're talking about 18 inches of gravel, we'll do it. And whatever it takes to do it, as long as at the top surface, you have a solid drainable.
Well, I still
surface.
think you can break ground. Do you think the ground is that solid that you can't move or grade anything around those sheds?
Well, we can try getting it in.
Because I'm seeing on-site construction going on. I'm seeing septic systems going in. I was there yesterday. I saw a field go in. I mean, people are breaking ground.
Yeah.
You know, and you actually have an excavator. I mean, it's not
All right, so you're saying
He's got a
one pen a
diesel
week
machine.
can happen, right? We said that 6
One
weeks,
pen every
right?
2 weeks.
Right, so saying one pen, what?
I think it was one pen every 2 weeks, right?
Well,
He said in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks would be the
One
first
pen a
pen.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one
And
pen a
that's-
week after that, right? So that's 8 weeks from now.
So that sounds like 8 weeks altogether.
so you're talking. So he has 2 weeks from today to start to complete his
one.
So I'll
first.
say it should be about the second week
Okay,
of
and then
May.
from then on, it's a grading on each shed each week after.
And assume a little bit of fluff time, second week of May. Right.
Should be completed.
Right,
So-
that's what I'm saying. It should be completed by the second week of May.
May 15th.
Yep.
Everything's completed.
And what's being
Everything being the
The
grading,
regrading and
yeah.
the gravels, but yes, we want to put
And
the
then
gravel.
concurrently, we're still gonna implement the moving of the manure to the central pile.
Oh, no,
that'll
that's
all be
been going on for
ongoing.
It's 3 months.
Right.
That's been going on. We actually have a vegetable farm that called us from Rentham that wants all our manure, so.
There you go.
very good.
Now,
How are they
okay, so
gonna
now, as we talked about, okay, the surface, you're bringing in gravel. When we say gravel, I'm thinking gravel is a mixture of sand, stone, things like that, not mud.
No, it's purchased gravel, it's $12 a ton.
So we're talking sand, granule sand,
It's
No,
basically crushed
not
stones.
loam.
Crushed stone.
crushed
Yeah.
stones,
All right,
and that
so
won't
that's-
hurt your pigs.
No,
being
as long as
hooked
it's
animals.
small, yeah.
Okay.
And with the 18 inches, they can't dig through it because it,
Yeah, that's a thick layer of gravel, so I mean,
but
that's.
any less than that, they'll get through it.
Right, so what we're looking for is a relatively uniform size gravel, an inch
Smaller.
or so in size?
Yeah, smaller.
Smaller, half an inch.
You wanna just
With
submit
no
one of the,
fine, yeah, I think we do that, with no fines in it. In other words, no sand, it's just a washed,
I was gonna go
Gravel.
with crusher run, so it's sand and stone crushed, sand and dust
like a
crushed
dense
together.
grader, it
It'll
sounds
actually,
like.
yeah, it'll actually bind.
you don't wanna do that.
Yeah,
So
I
the-
think that's where we saw there when we went there. It almost started acting almost like a
the-
pavement.
Is it dense graded?
The fines
The
and the
dense
dense
graded crushed
graded
stone, is that what it is?
I'm not sure, but it didn't seem to be draining very well.
Was it
Excuse me,
gray?
Are you talking about something like Keystone?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're talking about wash pea stone, yeah.
yeah.
I see. I could see a gravel like a bank run, a crusher run. I mean, a crushed stone will end up, compressing into concrete almost. It'll
Yeah,
be
there's a lot of silt in
yeah,
it.
but like a bank run gravel is a good draining material. That I could see being okay for the pigs to walk on.
Yeah, if that's what you'd like, we'll
Yeah.
go with-
I mean, as far as I think pea stone, I don't think that would be very good. I can't even imagine the animals being able to walk without breaking their legs in pea stone.
Well, pea stone's pretty fine.
Yeah, but that's when you try to step on. That's just all over the place. I could see like a bank run gravel, almost like a roadway sub base. Not the dense graded, which is gonna almost be a
that's got too
concrete.
many- yeah.
But I think we could easily give you a spec on that. And if you're getting this stuff, it sounds like about the right price of bank run. Or it's not even going to be bank run anymore. It's just going to be manufactured, but it's not going to be the dense graded, gray colored stuff that ends up being like a concrete when it's compressed. When it's
yeah, that's what we have been using.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would just ends up literally being like concrete.
But it was getting them out of the muck. It doesn't get mucky, even
Yeah.
though it compacts
No, that's
down.
true. It doesn't get mucky, but
It
it's
lifted them out. Even when they dig on it, it doesn't get mucky.
It just, I can see it being an issue with anything draining through it. I think that's kind of what we're saying. If these pigs are going to be urinating on the ground, you may want to have some of this stuff go in.
And easy for picking up the manure to off that.
Yeah, but
So
so the gravel would be too, though.
The dense grade that we were using, it was easy to pick off.
Yeah, I
the manure.
imagine so, because like
It
picking up a
stopped the
concrete.
muck and the turnover, but we could go in still and clean off
But
it.
now, if he grades it downgrade it, and use that hard pan stuff on top, wouldn't it make sense because everything would drain down? I mean, Tom, you owned a pig.
Yeah, that's we were crowning it out to the
For
sides.
parting gravel. We used to have high ground and tapered it off.
Yeah, that was my plan to
Well,
use the dense grade.
I
Burn
hate
it
to be
off and-
so specific, as long as it's not a mud. That's all I'm saying. You don't want to bring in a material that's
Yeah.
just ordinary fill
And the
that
wood
ends up
chips
being
were a
muck.
disaster.
You know, when we observed it, I think it was more the grading was more concerned other than the mud.
Yeah, so if your idea is the stuff you're bringing in works for you,
Yeah, it sets up and
Yeah.
it actually gives them a raised platform.
yeah, and that's fine. I mean, I said I don't want to, as long as it's not muck. That's all I'm
Let me
saying.
make a the subdivision rules and regs spec a gravel in accordance with Mass Highway requirements for the base of the road. So why don't we request that he use that?
Because I don't want to. I think he could use either or.
It might be
If
too
it's
simple.
working for him with the dense graded, then let him use it. It just says as long as it's not like an ordinary fill that's just going to turn to mud once these pigs walk
The
on it.
dense grade is gonna have a lot of fines in it. you know?
Right, and that's why I say it sets up like concrete.
Right, so,
Is that a problem? I don't know. I mean, it sounds like he's using it okay
I
with
mean,
the
he's
pigs.
got
I'm
some.
willing to try do two different sheds, different materials, see which works the best. I have no problem with that.
If you want to do that, that's fine.
It'll take 2
That's
weeks.
my only concern
2
was that
weeks
you
to
you
see.
just didn't bring an ordinary fill and you put it down and then the pigs are walking, it's just turning all into mud again. That's
Well,
as
we-
far as dense graded or
But you want, I mean, it's almost like designing a septic system here. What you want is something which has got a percolation rate, which
Yes.
allows the liquid to go through it. And so the idea of using, that sort of road base material or something close to it makes perfect sense.
well, that's gravel then.
That's
Yeah.
gravel, which is
It's
what you said in the
plain,
first
it-
place.
But that's not it's different. The dense graded
Well,
is the
right,
stuff
let's
that's
just
not
go
gonna
with
work.
gravel.
Yeah,
'cause we
it's-
know
it's
the
cheaper than
percolation
the
rate.
dense
It is
grade.
cheaper, yeah.
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 So, you can get, I don't have one with me, but Betsy can give you a Xerox of the one page in the rules and regs that spec what gravel is, and if you can just take that to a supplier,
Yep.
whoever your supplier is, give them that spec, and then when Wade's out there, if you could give him a sample
Yep.
that we can take a look at.
Yeah, I have no problem. If it can be purchased, I'm no problem getting it.
It's readily available, and it's probably the cheapest of the alternatives, and it probably will work the best, so.
Yep.
It's gonna be gravel per the subdivision rules and regulations.
Now, this is workable for you?
Yep.
Mr.
As
Hart?
long as I have 3 or 4 days, I can absolutely make it work.
Did you get a copy of the memorandum?
Yes, I did. I
Okay.
thought it was
Did
very
you-
fair.
Did you, was it, okay, because those are things I'll probably be looking at.
Yep.
And I'll probably also be looking at the farmer's guide also.
Farmer's guide for.
I'm not sure what the title is, I just saw it really briefly today, but it was for dealing with farming management.
It's what Len Reno uses in
Okay.
doing his farm plans. Now, let me ask about your alternative facility, which is, where is that?
In Douglas.
Douglas, okay. As of the 1st of July, is there anything that would prevent you from moving the animals there?
No. 1st of July, it's 61A, we're legally allowed to put the animals on.
Legally, but do they need sheds?
Not
Does the
initially.
property need to be cleared? Does water need to be brought in? Does electricity need to be brought in?
Either we have the animals, the fat pigs, on there by the 2nd of July, or we will be shipping our pigs to a factory on the 3rd of July.
Okay,
So-
but right now you anticipate that there's no impediment, there's nothing that has to be done to make the property ready, they could simply be brought there at
We
that point.
plan to take care of it, but either it will be done, or we'll be getting rid of the pigs on the 3rd of July. I will make a commitment to that.
And if you end up getting rid of the pigs on the 3rd of July, how long of a process would that be?
We can ship them to a factory within a week.
Within a week.
We don't want to do that, but we could.
Okay, so you're saying by the 2nd week of July?
Either all the fat pigs, every pig except a pregnant mum, or a piglet over, say, 40 pounds will be
Mhm.
off the farm.
Okay, so July
Under 40
12th.
pounds, they're still with their mums.
So say by July 12th.
Yeah, there will be no fat pigs on the farm.
No, what pigs?
Fat.
Fat pigs.
Fat pigs. And so will you have what's the number? Do you have a number right now for the females that will be left?
18 to
18.
19.
18, 19. All right, so let's say on July 12th,
And
a
we actually
maximum
have
of
20
20 pigs.
Yeah, we have actually 19 sheds,
Mm-hmm.
and we have 2 males, so it'll be 21 adult pigs of some shape. And that may go up to 23, or it may go down to 17. But
Okay,
that's,
so how about we say July 12th? Well, how many pigs are right now on the farm?
I'm going to say at the minute there was 30 babies born in the last 3 days. So
How many adults?
total pigs there might be 120.
Right now is about 120. Okay,
Oh.
so on July 12th,
But
we can say,
there's 30 of those that are 2 pounds weight.
how many adults are there right now?
Adults we have,
About 100 then?
90.
well, more like the fat pigs we have probably seven
Male
that
and female combined, just take out the little
7
pigs.
that are market weight. We have, so from 5 months down to 3 days, we have approximately, I'm going to say about 90.
All right, so on
Both
July,
of them being around 3.5 months.
on July 12th, we'll say a maximum of 25 pigs.
Yes, perfect. And that's the maximum number we plan on keeping ever again on the farm.
Okay.
And does that include the
that's not-
piglets or
No,
these
the
adults?
piglet-
That's
well,
a-
the piglets are basically under 40 pounds weight. But if Wade's coming out to the farm, he'll get familiar with the baby piglets with the moms.
Might get-
Giving them
They have names
names.
and everything,
Yeah, I might get really attached to them,
If
and
you start
So
bringing
he'll
them in on a
understand.
leash,
So-
I'll bring them to town.
you're gonna be one of those people with a pig on a
They're
leash.
gonna-
What
They're
we
going to
want to
slaughter
do is
them.
keep the babies while they're nursing their mums, and for approximately 10 days after they're weaned, and then they're gone.
All right, so the 25 pigs, that represents adults and babies?
No.
No,
Just adults.
That's adults.
Yeah, but if you put it into weight, live weight,
Mhm.
and what manure could be created,
Mm-hmm.
a baby piglet eats probably half a pound a day at 30 pounds of weight,
Mhm.
whereas the mom eats 6 pounds a day. So the manure from a 6-week-old piglet there's none. And this is basic science. Any of the department.
All right, so on July, when you have the 25 pigs, this is obviously before the piglets are born, right?
Yeah.
And now the piglets are born at some point, and then obviously those numbers go up exponentially. Then when do you ship the pigs out now?
At 5 weeks, they're weaned. 2 weeks later, they're gone.
So 7 weeks, so about 2 months later, you're down to 25 pigs again.
Well, yes, it's an ongoing cycle. We typically have 4 a month given birth.
4 months, okay, so it varies. You don't have one big litter and then
We're-
you get rid of them.
We're actually set up, we have 4 a month given birth, 4 a month about to give birth,
Mhm.
4 a month nursing, 4 getting weaned,
Okay.
and then we have
So at no time, you should be above 25 adult pigs then?
never.
Okay. So we're just a maximum of 25 adult pigs?
Yes, and they'll be easily recognized. You know, there's
Okay.
the size of a cat as against the size of a
Yeah, they're huge.
bear.
And then we had the idea of moving the pigs from the driveway to the new stalls.
That's definite, because then when all the fat pigs are gone, we have all them.
Okay, so let's give let's give a date for that.
Well, in the
Realistic date.
We mentioned during the farm visit, during the summer, we tend to have almost no animals along the road animals.
Okay.
So those maternity sheds, we have our mums, they're much happier outside.
All right, so are they empty right now, the maternity sheds?
we had 3 moms pig on Sunday and Monday.
Okay, so that's
Yes.
gonna be, so like you said, that's gonna be ongoing then, as far as this happening. Once these pigs are moved out in July, then the other sheds can be converted over? Or
Yes.
can that happen before that point? Can it be made ready for July?
Probably not, because we can't put
Okay.
a pig into Douglas.
Okay, so come in July, you can start the process of transferring these sheds?
Yes, and we have
Okay.
a new horse trailer. It's a second-hand horse trailer.
Let's give an idea how long you think it's gonna take to change those sheds over?
Oh, to change
To
get
make the
pigs
sheds
gone,
pens.
2 days. It'll take-
To make enclosures in those sheds so the pigs can now give birth inside there?
realistically, from May through to October, we don't have to have any moms giving birth in a shed. They're happier outside in the field.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
80
so-
degrees. They want to be outside. They don't want to be locked up.
Okay, so then come
Sheds
May, the
1
sheds,
through 6, I guess, they can be closed off on May.
Yeah,
on May
we
1st.
let them go empty. There's actually one of them empty.
beginning of May,
Well, let's say by the end of
15th,
May they will be empty.
end of May.
End of
Okay.
May they will
June
be
1st.
empty
Alright.
for the summer.
Okay, so June 1st, sheds 1 through 6 will be
3 through 5.
3 through 5. What's gonna go on with 1 and 2?
Well, 1 and 2 are not maternity sheds. They're where the young mums are.
The young mums are.
The young mothers.
They need to be by themselves?
Yeah, because we have young mothers and then we have old mothers and the fight. There's a whole hierarchy.
And can those be moved into the larger sheds? Wouldn't there be room to separate those out over there?
Yeah, in July we could move them.
July.
Yes.
Okay.
I can't move.
No, that's fine. So let's say, beginning of June, sheds 3 through,
Maternity sheds will be empty by the middle of
Okay.
May because them pregnant moms want to give birth out in the woods.
this is sheds 3 through 6?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's say middle of May, May 15th, which we also had as a date anyway, we're gonna be out there checking. So May 15th, sheds 3 through 6 can be abandoned.
Yes.
Okay. You getting this?
Hope so.
May 15th, sheds 3 through
Am I allowed
6.
to put chickens in them? Because the brand new shed, the sheds are only 3, 4.
Let's
6
make sure the
months
place doesn't smell first.
Yeah.
Can we do that first at least?
Well, that's a legit question though, because
A
because
brand
part
new
of his,
shed.
part of his pig farm is, dealing with hens.
Yeah, I
And
know.
he's selling eggs.
Where are they now?
They're up and shed up the chicken coop on the top of the coop.
Why do they need to move then?
Well, we want to get another 500 chickens in.
The goodness is they don't smell
The,
it.
the sheds are just brand new. That's the.
I know they are, I know they are. Can we first, let's get a clean break, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can say, all right, this is all working, because it now happens if you move pigs and then chickens come in and we still have odor problems, it's gonna be all convoluted. Right now, we're dealing with pigs, let's just get a clean break first.
For the last 4 years, we buy our chickens at the start of May
Mm-hmm,
because we buy 18-week-old young females
Mhm.
from Pennsylvania.
mm-hmm.
They come up, and you can only get them then, and they start laying eggs for June
Right.
1st.
Well-
Farm CSAs.
Then let's give it one more season then, that's all I say, to get this going. If you wanna increase the size of the chickens, let's get through this process first.
Okay. Well,
We've
our
already been waiting a year and a half, we're dealing with this stuff. Let's get through this first before you
chickens
start.
almost smell as bad as the pigs.
I know, but
Yeah.
no one else knows that.
But
We
it's-
don't know that. I don't even know
Wait
pigs
till
don't
we
smell right
testify to
now.
that
I know,
in
but
about
let's
a month's time.
let's
I
make
know
sure this
that.
happens first.
Yes.
We
We
know
had
that.
buy chickens too.
Can we agree to that? Can
I
we get
just-
through this one thing first and
I
then?
just have a question. So on the top of the hill, those sheds will satisfy your pig operation, your
Yes.
mother pig, your mother,
all the
on July
top-
1st.
Yes.
On forever. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be your piggery, right? And then you have your coop at the end of the road, which you're gonna
Yes.
be using again, right?
For this current batch of chickens, we keep our chickens for 2 years, so we'll be getting another 500 or 600 in at the end of April, beginning of May.
Okay. And then
So-
then you're gonna be using that coop for your chickens, and then you have your coop behind your house, directly behind your house.
We have that empty at the minute, and we didn't want to put on it. We ourselves believe some of the smell's coming from the chickens close to the house, so that's currently empty. It's been empty for probably, I'm going to say, early January. There's no chickens in it, and the smell's a lot less.
I think we've been very accommodating as far as not going with enforcements and things of that nature. And we're obviously getting a lot of pressure from abutters, and most specifically one abutter. But I would like to make sure we can address this problem first before we start throwing other animals into those sheds that have right now be considered the problematic ones. And I would hate to now have other issues as far as odors, noise, whatever. I'd like to get through this process first before we talk about expanding and everything else. I know that's in your purview. I know you can, whatever chicken enclosures you have now, if you can do more on the other side for now, whatever. But I would like to get through this problem. I think we've been very accommodating.
Okay, can I get back to you on that? Because from my point of view, if the chickens come in, if we get new chickens as we've been farming, and I'm not trying to be awkward, but we removed them from the house because we thought that was a problem at the lower, the chicken coop that's marked down near our dwelling house.
Right, and you moved them from there, why?
Well, way up the hill, the farthest end of the property. So,
Wait a minute, you moved them from this coop that's here?
nearest the house, yeah. The
This one right, that you've moved them from there?
Yeah, that's empty.
Okay, now where did you, and why did you move them from
Our
there?
end of the pigs on the very top of the hill.
Okay, so why did you move them from that coop?
Because the chickens
Odors.
smell.
Okay, so now we're talking about putting them closer to the abutter property line.
Well, these are new sheds, and each shed would hold 80 chickens.
But
won't be the
chickens smell.
No.
Well, chickens smell if you have 700 or 800 in one shed. If you have 3 or 4, or if you have 3 or 4 smaller sheds, it'll not be nearly as bad.
What's the difference if they're right next to each other? In essence, it's one big shed. They're all in the same area. The density doesn't change. Chicken per area is going to be the same as one big coop as opposed to 4 little ones. So see, that's what I'm talking about right now. Now we're talking about putting another odor nuisance closer to the property line when we're trying to deal with one at a time.
Can I get back to you rather than giving an answer now on that?
I
one
prefer
particular-
not. I'd prefer to get a clean break on
I'm
this
not
right
exactly sure how we can answer you because the chickens are booked, and the other option we have is
now. What's the chicken coop made of right now? The one that you
it's-
have over by the pigs.
It's a concrete shed with
Very similar to the pig enclosures?
it's identical. Wooden walls, shingle roof, and it's fine because it's that far. It's the farthest end of the property.
I think you're going to have problems if you do it there.
Shed
We're
numbers-
trying to go the route right now where we're not going to go enforcement and things of that nature. If we can get this one issue taken care of with the smells first, everyone's happy with that. I think
I just
then we
don't-
talk about expanding or changing or something like that. Now we've got a point where we say that works, these odors aren't happening, everyone's happy, it's a regular farm, everyone understands that. Now we can talk about putting chickens in, because now if you move those in and the odors happen again, we know where it comes from. The way you're doing it now, it's going to be mixed in with one to the other. Pigs smell, pigs don't smell, chickens don't smell. We're never going to get to the end of this, and it's going to get ugly.
I can put them back in the old shed if that's what you.
Well, let's see. Is this the only, you're talking about 2 chicken coops, and I'm seeing one on the plan here. Where's the other one?
The very top.
The little 2 ones next to the pigs, long
So
pig,
the big
parallel
animals-
pig
Oh,
enclosures.
up here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So yes, exactly.
All right. So, where are the chickens now? They're up. All of them are up here,
Yes,
and none of them are here.
that's completely. That whole bottom section's empty.
But
That's
you're
why the
getting more.
smell's gone. I think. this
Okay.
last couple of weeks.
So, if, well, tonight for the first time we've identified the issue of closing these buildings. If we hadn't identified this issue and you hadn't thought of putting chickens in them, where were you going to put the hundreds of chickens that you ordered? Where would they go if this didn't happen in the last hour?
Well, for me to move all the animals out to Douglas is going to cost X amount of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from my point of view, I'm already compromising emptying sheds that are just brand newly constructed, and if we're to try and keep going with the farm, if I have to dump existing brand new sheds to find new housing, at least if I could utilise the existing new sheds, it takes some of the pain out of it. The sheds are 10 months old or whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, the issue of reuse is legitimate, but you have ordered chickens already, I guess is what you're saying.
Not yet. We typically do it in another couple of weeks. But we do order 500 to 600 chickens every early April, early May, end of April.
And let's say we hadn't talked about closing these buildings. When you ordered the new group of 500 or so chickens, would you have put them in this coop? Is that what, was that the plan?
Shed number 6 isn't actually a shed, it's only a foundation. I don't know if you guys remember noticing it.
Yeah.
And that is possibly the new chicken location. Shed number. The little footprint number 6 is a concrete slab ready for the new chickens. Our goal up until tonight was to get everything close to the house gone. So,
Shed number 6
Is
was going to be
co-
used. Is that the only one?
yes, it's just a slab.
All right, so the only thing you're going to lose out on then is just pouring a new concrete slab. That's the only thing you're gaining. Right now, to
No,
this
it's
whole.
already there, I think.
Right, you have a concrete slab. You're saying if you had to put this chicken coop someplace else, you would have to pour a new concrete slab.
Well, not exactly. The slab is already on the ground.
Right.
That was our new proposed in
Right.
our heads.
Right. If
Chicken
you
coop.
leave that and don't use that right now and have to build this someplace else, your penalty or your loss will be pouring a new concrete slab because that's what you have in the ground right now. To start from scratch, you're talking about pouring a new 10 by 10 concrete slab. Right?
Like where will I put it?
Well, you have a whole chicken coop up by the pig area,
It's full.
but you could put a new concrete slab there.
Well, no, there's no room.
How can there not be room? You tell me this whole 8 acres for find another 10 by 10 spot is the only spot that's there?
I lost probably 4.5 acres to wetlands.
Okay, but I'm looking at your central area where you have these pigs housed right now that we're talking about switching over to enclosures.
I lost another half an acre to a manure pile.
And you have chicken coops up there now. And now you're saying a 10 by 10 slab won't fit up there.
Well, I will look and see.
Okay, good enough.
I have a question for the chicken coops. I looked at those sheds, and usually with a chicken coop, you have little boxes that they have nests in it. How are you going to arrange those sheds to house 60 or 80 chickens that you mentioned? There just doesn't seem to be room.
Can we look at it when you're out there on the farm?
Yeah, I mean, are you going to be building an addition onto it, or are you going to take the roof off, make it bigger?
Until tonight, I didn't know I was losing shed 3 through 6 or 5. I didn't know I couldn't keep animals there. So I just need a little bit
And we're
of
not
time.
saying it's a permanent thing. We're saying let's get through
Well,
this.
let's be realistic. If we're not allowed to keep animals there and we can no longer use the sheds.
We don't know that.
Wait a second. You just said we could not put chickens in there this year. So I would imagine in my head that we are not allowed to use the sheds in future, or at least for the next 12 months. Or am I
All we're saying
mistaken?
is we get through this pig issue.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to the point where everyone's happy. There's no odor issues. Everything's taken care of, and now you say you want to use this chicken coop. Great, that's fine. Do it. And now, if the odors start again, we know where it came from. Now it's the chickens that are there. Okay, so all we're saying is let's get through this. Let's clean it up. Let's make everyone happy. All your butters happy. And then, if you want to use these sheds, well, now we can actually pinpoint where this has come from. If you want to shoot one at a time, if you want to fill it through all full of chickens, that's great. And if the problem comes and the smells happen, we know exactly what to look at. We don't have to go through a year and a half of site visits and odor problems and things of that nature. It just gives us a nice starting point to get from. We're not saying let's never use these sheds again, throw them away, lose all that money. We're saying let's just get through one thing at a time. That's it. Okay. All right, so we had May 1st, sheds 3 through 6 are abandoned. I'm sorry, May 15th, sheds 3 through 6 are abandoned. And then what else do we have after that? Sheds 1 and 2 you still need.
They'll be regraded. So shed 1 and 2 would have female adults.
Yes.
Females.
And were those ever going to be moved over to the other enclosures?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Hopefully, the grading will help.
Yeah, well, that's the
I mean,
whole
that's
idea.
the whole concept
Well,
of the
that's the
grading.
spring solution too for the ones that are still there. So
Correct.
we hope it'll work.
Right, and centralizing the manure, and the smells go down, and I guess all the emotions go down, and life goes on.
All right, is there any other things we need dates for?
No?
So your mid-July date then is for,
July 12th was
that's
pigs.
gonna be for reconstruction of the,
No, July 12th was all the I'm sorry, that's when we're down to 25 maximum adult pigs.
He's moving them, he's
they're
moving
gonna be
his,
in sheds, the upper sheds. They're gonna be in 8 through 12 and 13 through,
Well, he can't,
18.
you can't reconfigure these sheds at the top until the pigs
Until
are
the pigs are
gone, is that
moved.
correct?
Exactly.
Right.
but the summering mothers are gonna be someplace else anyway.
They'll be outside.
Yes,
So,
down in the electric fenced area. I
Okay.
think the conservation doesn't have a problem with that.
So the only other date we could throw out there is just to make sure that these enclosures, you said between up to August, the pigs are gonna be outside,
Yes.
is that right? All right, so we could say sometime by the end of July, those sheds would be reconfigured, is that?
Yep.
Can we say that? Okay, so August 1st, we'll
Yep.
say what do we call them now? Sheds 8 through 12,
13
actually
through 18.
8 through 18
That's right, yeah.
will be configured.
Can I make
for-
a suggestion? Yous aren't actually concerned if I reconfigure the sheds as long as sheds 3 through 5 are empty. Is that correct?
To the point, yes, unless you're talking about putting
now
new.
you're kind of telling me how to manage the farm rather than just telling me you're not allowed to keep pigs.
Well, you
in
had
sheds through
mentioned, you had
5.
mentioned that you would be willing
That's a
to,
farm management.
you had
concern.
mentioned you would be willing to reconfigure those sheds to move the
Yeah, but
pigs.
it's not. That's not part of the Board of Health's concern whether I reconfigure.
No, we're going on your agreement, so you're saying you don't
no,
want
no.
to put them there.
So
we are.
I'm going to commit that shed 3 through 5 will be empty.
Right.
Okay.
That's as far as your concern should go. Or am I mistaken?
Well, no, yes, because you
So
you just asked
let's-
us, you just mentioned
No, no,
that
no,
you
no,
would
so
be doing
let's
it, so
leave
you're
it at
saying
that.
you won't do that now? There
I'm
will be
saying-
empty, yes.
I am simply saying that the Board of Health of Norfolk's concern is that shed 3 through 5 is vacant. It will be vacant.
Okay.
That's it.
Will there be any new structures put there?
It's not your concern. Your concern is that there are no pigs 3 through 5, or am I mistaken?
There'll be what?
Sheds 3 through 5
Right.
should be vacant.
Mhm.
That's all the Board of Health's concern should be, or wrong, or am I
No,
wrong?
no, you're correct.
That's fine.
Okay.
Right.
So we don't need to discuss what I do on any
Where
other
you moved
sheds.
them? No, no. No, we were just trying to get to the point of, we felt if you moved them to the
I-
furthest point you have available, hear me out. If we moved them to the furthest point you have available and there was still an issue with odor, then we said we moved them as far away as possible. If you want to play games and say, well, these will be empty, but I'll put up new enclosures right across from them, go ahead.
I'm going to make a commitment now. There will be no new buildings, except for maybe shed number 6,
Okay.
which may be a chicken coop. There will be no new pig structures.
So now you're
built
saying you
in
will be
Norfolk.
putting the chickens over there? Is that what you're saying now?
Okay. What do you want me to say?
Okay,
I am committing to tell you that shed 3 through 5 will be empty of pigs, and I will build no new pig structures.
But, that's
of
fine.
any
Listen, we're
size,
trying to work
any
with, we're
shape,
trying to
on
work with
any
you
part of the-
to
and
get
I'm
away
trying to
from
tell-
this whole
you're-
enforcement thing in order. We'd like to draw a line. You do what you want with number 6. Do what you want.
Perfect. There won't be pigs in it. And
Do
I
what you want
plan
with
to build no new pig structures of any description on the property. I don't understand why the Board of Health is concerned itself how I manage my farm.
No, I
We
think-
don't.
I
wait
think
a
it
second.
speak.
May I speak?
No, please,
Going
please.
back, you would originally had said that the moms, the maternity ward, or so to speak, was gonna be moved to that area once the other pigs came up. And I think that basically that's what his comment was, is that you're gonna be moving the pigs there and changing the structure. Now, how you change the structure, earlier you had said that you would reconfigure that, you would change the structure, and that's just basically what he's saying. Now, if you choose not to actually physically change that structure, but as long as the mums are there, that's all we care about, is that there's no pigs on this side of the driveway, that the pigs get over there. So once that the adult pigs get moved out to, and as of July, that you would have, the moms are always hanging out in the summertime, summering in the nice grass and whatnot. But the moment they need a structure, they'll be in those structures.
Yes.
Okay.
There will
How
be
you-
no more
how you-
animals housed
Correct.
on the facing our dwelling house on the right-hand side.
Right.
Shed 3 through 5 will be
Right.
empty as
And-
of whatever
And
the date
how
was.
you create those structures, we don't really, that's
Yeah.
not our purvey.
Perfect.
But I think what was happening was, is that you just basically reiterated what you had said.
Right.
That you were gonna change it
Well, and
around.
beyond that too, we get a lot of dates that don't seem to happen. So if we knew that there was a place that the animals were going,
Right,
then we knew that date was realistic for them to get there.
right.
I don't care, or none of us care how you manage your farm, as long as we don't have to deal with these odors in the future. And we're trying to work with you to make sure we can all get on the same page and say we've tried.
Right.
So,
So however, you know, those structures will be ready for mothers sometime in August. So when they start going back in and they need a structure, that's when they'll be ready for it. However you choose that them to be ready, that's your choice.
all right, any other dates? I think that's it.
Well, I have a question on where are the pigs roam during the summertime? What location?
It's basically if you were to draw a line from the old chicken house at the back of our dwelling house over to shed 19, the lower side of that, basically below the manure pile. There's
Okay.
0 animals allowed up near the neighbors.
Okay, so there won't be between the gravel driveway and,
No, it's below.
okay.
Okay.
Basically, the old chicken house to shed 19, there's an electric fence marked on one of the ladies have it, Marie and
Okay.
Janet, and it's actually marked off at the electric fence.
That's good, that's good. And now, your old coop house, you're not going to make it into a chicken coop at all? You're gonna tear it down? You're gonna make in refrigerators for your eggs? I mean, everything, just curious. I mean, I'm not telling, I'm just,
I'm not really sure. In a couple of days, I'll figure it out.
Okay, okay,
Tonight, I'm not
okay.
sure. So.
I mean, I think the issue is that we're not trying to manage your farm, but whenever a submission is made to a town board, it's usually complete, so that the board can understand everything that's going to go on. So, you know, when you say something like, well, they won't be here, but you don't tell us what's happening, that's not what we're used to. We're used to having full information. Not that we're going to try to necessarily regulate it, but we want to understand what's going on. So, you know, the degree to which you can, you know, be forthright and tell us stuff, even if it's not within our immediate control, it helps us to understand the total picture, that's all.
Well, beyond that too, is if everything is that we tried to outline is implemented and it doesn't work, then you can come back and say, hey, I did everything the board did,
Right.
and this guy's complaining. Well, if it's not done to the way we outlined and you change it around and it still's not working, then that's the point we say, well, you're not doing what we said, now we're talking about enforcement.
From my point of view, I understand you all have a job to do. I understand we're a nuisance to the neighbours and to the town. When you come out for the site meeting on the 16th or 17th of January, it became obvious probably in 20 minutes why I didn't move the old manure pile. I could have talked here for 2.5 hours and you would have thought I was just being awkward. In 15 minutes on the property is understood. When you've seen the animals in shed 3 through 5, you've also understood why I didn't move the couple. I moved one pen that we're doing everything. We had planned on moving the old manure pile. The next day, a lady from the wetland said, you can't move the manure pile. It got to stay here or it's going to have runoff over the winter. So, you know, we're getting...
Can't move it where? Where can't you move it?
No, the old manure pile was... So, you know, in 15 minutes on the property, a lot of the stuff that I'm saying makes sense. Maybe even less than that. It's very hard to discuss the actual farm if you haven't walked around on it for 10 minutes. We run a nice little farm.
No, and no
We're
one's- we're not saying you don't really.
We're
Like I
not-
said,
We're not trying to be bad neighbours.
as Tom kind of alluded to, if we could go through the steps, we had all these dates, information, what you're going to do, we know exactly what's going to happen, because again, the abutter says, well, we've heard this before. We hear this and then this doesn't happen. We have dates here and it doesn't happen. We talked about moving pigs out in November. If we have dates and you met them all and we still have an issue, then we can say, listen, we tried, he tried. But if we're saying, well, we've got dates, they're not met, he changed one thing, we said, well, all the animals were going to be gone, suddenly chickens appear and things of that nature, then that puts us in a situation where we have to say, well, he didn't do everything we said. It was kind of alluded to. So that's why we're trying to get everything laid out and done in order here.
Unfortunately, I can only do so much. With regards to the applying for the permission in Douglas, I applied for 2 years. We were, they wouldn't split the parcel. That was the first year's dilemma. You can only apply in, I think it's the 1st of September. Norfolk's the same application. We applied end of August. We didn't hear anything back until the 15th of December when they said, you've been accepted. It was a 2-year process. I cannot, no matter how hard I try, make a board in a town do what I want. So,
Well, let's hope.
but
going
I
forward
did do
just-
the applications
It all
and
works out.
everything else, so.
All right, well, let's see what happens. We'll go forward and let's just see what happens.
So I guess in 2 weeks, in the week of March 20th, I don't have a calendar in front of me. I guess we'll be, Betsy, what's the best way to contact you, through email or?
Email's perfect. Email, and if you want to give me if Betsy wants to just send me a quick email to let me know what time and day you're
Yeah.
coming, that's not a
Yeah.
problem.
Be either Tuesday or Thursday.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Would earlier in the morning works better for me.
Okay, so March 20th is actually on a Wednesday. So now we're looking at March 21st, probably is a Thursday, tentatively.
That's fine. What's the earliest you can get there?
How early do you, well, not at 5 o'clock in the morning, because you want to go off to
Would
work.
8 p.m. work or
8 p.m., how about 9?
or 8 a.m. Sorry.
8 a.m.? How about between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m.? Give me a lead wave an hour.
Yeah.
So you won't be sitting there tapping your foot saying you're late, complaining.
So
And just one last thing, leaving here, don't think that anyone here is trying to shut this farm down or doesn't want it in town. That's not the intent. It really is. I'm sorry it appears that way to you if that you're thinking, but it's not. I mean, it really isn't. It's just trying to make these people happy and deal with something that's popped up that you have every right to put in your property because it's allowed.
no, I understand we're it's not.
If it comes off that way, it's not the way it should be. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think anyone here thinks that either, so. All right, anything else?
I'm just wondering just a simple question. What is the farm management plan? How will that help you, Mr. Hart? I mean, what will that do? Is that like a part of a permitting process? Do you get recognition of being a farm? What
I
is
have no idea. I know the federal government pays for it, and it takes about 3 to 4 months, and it's that we're following normal farm
Best
practices. We're not doing
practices.
something wacky. Like it would sort out the brewer's grain, whether that's an acceptable farming practice, which I know already it is. We're disease-free here. We're one of the top. We're a very well-run farm
I
with
have no
regards to
complaints.
our competitors in the state.
But if you had a farm management plan and you followed that plan, that also would support your actions too. So place it to a board like this, come to a regulatory board, you can say, look, I'm following this management plan and this is what I'm doing, and we can say, oh, Mr. Hart does have a plan, oh, we see what's going on. I think that's what we're lacking, and that's why we're coming so hard on you and trying to get answers from you, because we don't have anything in writing on a plan. It's all in your head and we don't know what's in your head.
What also it'll do is it will tell me where I should plant, which particular grasses I should plant closer to the lake, far away from the lake, how to prevent any runoff ever getting to the lake. It'll have a lot to do with for the Conservation Commission. They'll be very pleased when we get it. It's from the National Resource Conservation Service. So
What Mr. Reno indicated, it would focus primarily on 2 things: manure management and protection of the wetlands. So,
yes, that's
but
what it
I
is.
think the guidance that we've talked about in terms of what to do with the manure now is a positive step, putting it in that location. So there may be refinements or additional requirements in the farm plan, but doing what we've agreed upon is a good first
Yeah.
step in the process. So.
It turns out the manure is actually a highly sought after asset by vegetable farmers. So
Oh, yeah, we talked about that you could make a nice byproduct, your compost being under control. People would actually seek it.
Do they want it composted, or are they just willing to take it at any point?
But they just want to get it. I guess they're getting horse manure at the minute, and it's full of weeds and straw. So
Right.
we don't have any hair straw. So
So the pig is a better,
yeah.
Manure.
Just
And
great.
basically, after it sits for about 2 months, it's odor free. It gets like black loam straight away.
now are you doing, I'm just curious, are you doing it through a contractual agreement, or they just come as a,
It's a farm we supply eggs to down in Rentham.
okay.
So they can't get it. They're actually purchasing it. They're purchasing waste kitchen scraps, and they're composting that from a grower way up in the North Shore. So, and they're getting spoons and plastic utensils and all that rubbish in there.
Right.
So they're thrilled at the idea of being able to get a manure source.
And how will they transport that?
They have pickup trucks and dump trucks. So and we have the way to load them. So as it gets bigger, I don't think there's any problem. This is the first farm. We sell our eggs to 5 different vegetable farms, so we primarily deal with vegetable farms. So,
All right, well, let's move on if we can.
Okay, that's good. Well, thank you.
Appreciate your effort.
thank you. And sorry for getting a little heated, but
Yeah, it happens. All right, Wayne, you'll be in touch.
Yeah,
And,
we go through Betsy, communicating to the office, that's everybody usually.
okay, thank you very much.
All right, take care. All right, let's move on.
Thank
I
you.
gotta get out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get out of here. Continue discussion of the Board of Health sewage regulations. I would ask that, I'm just gonna get out of here pretty quick, so if you guys wanna talk about this at the end of the meeting, or we can table it to a different meeting, it's up to you.
It's no urgency, people. I'm not taking offense to it. I really,
Speaking of it being a year and a half, I've got certain year and a half cycles now that you're part of.
Hey, wait, they just told me to say that, I don't have to worry about it.
I'm not taking offense to it.
All right, let's sign vouchers. Do you have vouchers?
Thank you.
Actually, if they were really bad, you would have said something by now, so.
That's true. That's true. Well, your current regulations are getting outdated. That's why it's kind of confusing some of the engineers.
Tell them to deal with Brentham, then they'll be real confused.
Well, with the Permit Extension Act, some of the older permits are still alive, and they expire or they do a revision on that, take a look at it, say, well, this permit regulation is no longer acceptable, and some of the engineers aren't aware of it because the regulations are still in effect.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Do I hear a motion to accept?
motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So approved.
What's the ZBSC representative?
Zoning
Zoning
bylaw
board.
study.
Oh, was that Jeff?
No, I don't think so. That's
It
Tom.
was.
Was it? I was doing it.
Well, it can't be that bad then if you don't read it.
Yeah, I know, huh? Oh, yeah, I am on that, isn't I?
Yeah.
I move to reappoint Jeff to be a representative of the zoning bylaw study committee.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Too bad.
Nay. Let it be known that I voted against it.
Fine,
Betsy,
you
do
still
you know
lost.
the date of the
Exactly.
meeting? Isn't there a ZBC whatever coming up pretty soon? 'Cause they've got 4 warrant articles or 6 warrant articles or something.
They might be meeting tomorrow.
Schedule next meeting.
Annual report. Betsy had sent out the annual report earlier.
Where is it, this one? Where is it?
It's in our pile here somewhere.
Your pile.
Any action needed on it?
It's very compelling.
I thought,
It's right.
yes, the data are outstanding and
Yep.
Where is it?
It'll have you on the edge of your seat.
Here, you can.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's very thick.
I'm restricted how much
right.
space I can take up.
All right, so there's no action taken, we'll just peruse this at our own, unless you want me to read it for the
Well,
audience.
We'll have to approve it so we can get it
Yeah, you
published.
to approve it.
Oh, okay, so we do need to approve it, all right.
This is just a facts, ma'am kind of report, which is
Exactly.
just what they're looking for.
It's a nice executive summary.
Not sure many people really read it, but.
Well, I know the interesting thing
There's
is, though, is it's the number of everything is pretty much doubled as far as new construction, perk testing, and building
Burial
permits.
permits, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the construction seems
Burial
to be up.
permits, too.
Everything is up.
Everything is up, twice as much. Twice as much, yeah. It's amazing how twice as many people are dying, but there's twice as many houses being built.
Any communicable diseases, really bad diseases, Betsy, and the death? Anything,
I don't know.
you couldn't tell me anyhow, it's confidential, right? Any Lyme disease?
That would be in the Walpole visiting nurse report, I guess.
We should put a line item for that. Can we put a line item for that?
But what?
Cases of documented Lyme disease, so people will be aware of how much it's.
Would that not reported?
Oh, not reported at all?
Not at all, not anymore.
Wow. Why is that?
Don't ask
They
me.
stopped reporting Lyme disease? Is it as a requirement? Or just, they just stopped reporting it, doctors just stopped
It's
reporting it?
state, it's, but the state does not require reporting anymore. I think there were too many cases.
Okay, motion to accept.
I
So
motion to
moved.
accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Schedule next meeting.
Well, clearly we'll do it after Wade's.
What is that way? We'll do it that
It
way.
was March
21st.
21st
Mhm.
on a Thursday.
So wanna do it the
There
20
early in the morning.
Let me take a quick peek at the calendar.
So the following Tuesday meeting.
The
April
Tuesday, April
2nd?
2nd.
Yeah, probably be appropriate.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Betsy, April 2nd?
So, let me just take a look at the calendar. Yep, this should be good.
Okay, engineering contract expiring in June. Thanks for the reminder.
Pushing me out the door already, huh?
Any other old or new
But
business?
do we need to look at, do we need to do another RFP?
Well, we're supposed to be working with the planning board on this one. I haven't heard nor hear
I
from
haven't
them.
done anything either, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta get together. I can call Jeff, but, we did wanna get together with him on it.
Well, what is the schedule? Because you gotta do a posting and there's gotta be a
Right.
notice and there is a time involved in all this.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We gotta go through and,
So
and
we're-
and agree on the RFP first.
Right. We have the one that landed you guys the job
Mhm.
last time, right? So
Sure.
we need to dig that out and see what it looks
Yeah,
like.
I mean, the worst case, we wanna do it, we can always extend it, but,
Well, we did that once already.
Yeah,
yeah,
we
we
did
did it
it
once already, but we do it twice, too.
2 times.
It's like a continuing resolution here, like in Washington.
I think
Yeah.
boards of health can do that. You know, for services, I don't think you have to go for RFP. You can have a contract, I think, as much as 20
No,
years.
because we definitely want to
Really?
take the time to do it with the
Like
planning
for
board.
nursing services, definitely, you know that. Any kind of services that are rendered will help the public.
I thought the Uniform Procurement Act over,
You have a check for boards of health, there's some contracts boards of health can go without that, Procurement Act. And I know one of them is nursing services. I'm not sure if
that's
engineering.
interesting, because we had this enormous debate about a dozen years ago that said we had to do this.
Mm-hmm. It was a flashback, I remember that,
You
yes.
I remember it very well.
Well, I'm not,
It
I'm
was
not,
it was
probably right
yesterday.
around 1998.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we have two witnesses, three actually.
All right, want to,
not an attorney.
put,
but I
want to
do
dig
know
out the
that.
RFP and throw it in for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, send it out to us, that'd be great.
Yep.
Any other old or new business people want to discuss?
I'd like to sign these things.
Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.